Hi, I'm your host, Jürgen Strauss from Innova.buzz, and I'm really excited to welcome to the Innova.buzz podcast today. I was going to say from Seattle, Washington, but I think on a layover in New York, traveling at the moment. And so, normally from Seattle, Washington, but today coming to us from New York, Krishnan Venkata, who's the Chief Client Officer at LatentView Analytics. Krishnan brings over 20 years of experience in data analytics and strategic leadership. He's driven significant return on investment for many Fortune 500 companies through advanced data strategies. And under his leadership, LatentView has grown into a global leader in analytics, even achieving the milestone of being the first pure play analytics consulting firm in India to go public. So, welcome to the InnovaBuzz podcast, Krishnan. It's a real privilege to have you as my guest.
Oh, thank you for having me, Jorgen, and look forward to the conversation.
Yeah, me too. Now, you've had an impressive journey in the field of data analytics from your early days at Wipro Technologies and Cognizant to your pivotal role here at LatentView Analytics. So there's lots to unpack and explore in today's conversation. Let's get started with what's the impact you're aiming to make in the world with your work today?
Actually, that's a very pertinent question in terms of. I mean, we all have a purpose in life for which we have come here. In fact, very recently within Latent View as well, we have been actually doing a lot of data for good and being part of this data for good initiative. So we have partnered with the International Myeloma Foundation to see how we can um, reduce the time to hope for myeloma patients using data analytics. This is about looking at congregating information from multiple sources and making it available to patients at the time of their need. We've also been working as part of our CSR activity with a lot of underprivileged students within the Indian subcontinent. But increasingly, I think we are going to be involved in a lot of exercises where we are using data and analytics for the greater good of mankind. And there's a lot of fields like healthcare, life sciences, etc., where analytics can be very powerful into not just helping with business decision but saving lives.
Wow, that's quite exciting, and it's a different application than I actually discovered in my research about your company. So I'm really excited to learn more about that as we get in deeper into the conversation today. The the idea of using data and using analytics today is kind of it's a relatively new field, isn't it? I mean, we go back to the days of looking at search engine optimization as one form of data on the internet, but today with the advent of artificial intelligence, we're discovering all these new areas where we can analyze data to get insights. So one of the things I know you're very uh, you talk about quite a lot in your website and so on is the return on insights and the impact that insights from data can have. So talk to us a little bit about that because I think that kind of encompasses those examples you've just given us.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question, Jorgen. I think you're absolutely right. The data analytics has, I mean, it has made great strides in the last couple of decades. I think three things that have actually made it come this far has been the cost of data storage has been coming down. Compute has been coming down as well. The cost of compute has been coming down. We have seen cloud becoming a big mainstream thing. And lastly, the whole thing of Gen AI making analytics available in the hands of a lot of people, right? Just not businesses. Now, as a result of this, what we are seeing is increasing applications of analytics on data to help with uncovering insights. Now, insights in itself are not going to be useful. So, if I give you an insight, unless you take an action or a decision which helps your business or your personal life in some way, that insight is only just a good piece of information with no
Hmm.
value. And so, what we are focused is not just providing insights, but seeing whether action is taken on insights and what is the impact that those insights are generating. So I think we focus on return on insights and not just saying that we have provided an actionable insight. And that's been a shift that we have done in the last 4 or 5 years, where our CEO has driven this, saying that we want to be able to provide not just a return on investment, but a return on insight that our clients are seeing, and what is the value of that return that they are able to get for the investments that they are making into data and analytics.
Mm. Yeah, that's a really good point about the insights without action are just a piece of information. And then, of course, if you take action on those insights and then measure the outcome and add that to the data that you have available, well, that could drive further insights, right? Or it could validate that particular insight or invalidate it and bring up new insights.
Yep, absolutely. No, and I think the bias for action is extremely important. I think Amazon has shown it to everybody on
Mm.
how the bias for action makes sense. Whether the decision is the right or the wrong, we'll know it at the end of the day. But taking an action is extremely important over inaction, and I think that's what we want to focus on with the insights.
Yeah, yeah. So, what metrics do you use to measure the success of the strategies and the insights that you bring up and suggest as a result of the analytics that you've done?
Yeah, no, I think we have got two ways of measuring this. So I'm going to talk about the internal way of measuring this as well as the external metrics. Now, any analytics initiative or analytics solution that we are developing has a business purpose, right? Are we trying to improve revenue? Are we trying to increase customers? Are we trying to increase the wallet share of the customers that we are going, preventing retention, etc.? And any of those metrics has a dollar value associated with it. So if you're going to increase the customers, what does that mean in terms of business value? If you are improving the supply chain efficiency, what does it mean in terms of cost saving?
Hmm.
So that dollar value is what we look for, and we try to understand that by doing small incubated tests to identify what is that impact in the control environment, and kind of see what that would mean in a test market that we would actually launch. So finally, it comes down to the dollar value that you're able to get, either in saving or in new dollars over the dollars that are invested towards this. Now that's the external way of looking at it, and we want to find out, if we implement this analytic solution, what is the return or the dollars that you're able to get for the dollars that you're investing. Internally, what we are getting our teams to do is, for all the insights that we are able to give as part of our projects, we classify uh, them into what level of insight were we able to give a transformational insight or an incremental insight, and that level depends on the impact and the recognition of that impact in the client organization. So for example, if I'm able to provide an insight which has led to an action which has got a validation from a CX level or the executive level, then we say, you know what, that's the highest level of insight, because you're able to create a transformational change by the insight that you've been able to provide. Now, that doesn't mean that always you'll be able to come with transformational insights. Sometimes we provide incremental benefits, and then division leaders are able to provide that validation that this insight helped us deliver this much value, and that validation is what we take as an internal benchmark, and our teams are gold as well as measured against this, and it's an important part of our delivery process. So we have got this ingrained on being able to measure the impact on our insights that we are delivering on our client scenarios or situations.
Hmm. Hmm. Right. So, and then, of course, that helps change direction if it's not on track or if it's not working because you've got the data there very quickly. And I imagine
Yeah.
the data that you collect would be very, very quick. So you very quickly know, are we headed in the right direction here, or do we need to do something different?
It also helps to, one of the stats that I had seen at some point of time was that about 80% of the analytics solutions don't see the light of day in terms of implementation. And that was a very starking number when you look at saying that, imagine that 80% of the analytics spend is not being utilized at all, right?
Hmm.
And that's one of the things that we want to change is move away from inaction. Make sure that the solutions we are developing, we are pushing our clients to, hey, you have invested and developed the solution, are you taking action on them, and have you measured the outcomes that have come from that action, right? And we have made this as part of our culture in terms of this, and we also try to educate our clients saying these are the impact that these solutions were able to deliver in other contexts, other client scenarios, and that helps them understand the need for not only just implementing analytic solutions but continuously measuring. And you're absolutely right, then you learn what things are working, what things are not working, so you can make those subtle pivots. Are you looking at the right data? Are you looking at the right way towards the problem? So what changes you need to make, and you incrementally learn. Analytics is always believed to be a one stop solution or a magic wand that will solve it. It is not. It's a continuous incremental process, and you need to continuously as we evolve as human beings, the analytic solutions also evolve, because the context changes, the customers change, the needs change, the environment changes, right? And so that means that you need to keep continuously acting about it and keep continuously learning, which is why the whole idea of machine learning and the whole part of learning becomes extremely important than just knowledge.
Hmm. Yeah, I was fascinated. You talked there about the culture of data management and measurement and measuring the actions, measuring the outcomes of actions, and also the idea of continuous learning. Now, we'll get onto the machine learning part of it in a moment, but what I'm curious about, because I know you talk about innovation quite a bit too in all the material that I've read inside your organization. So, how do you develop that culture of continuous learning, of measuring outcomes, of making sure that you're always looking at that return on those insights that are being generated, and also that whole culture of innovation as things are evolving so quickly, as you pointed out.
Yeah, there is unfortunately not an easy quick answer to this, but I think to drive culture it needs to come from the leadership, right? So the CEO, me, and a lot of the executive leadership is personally involved in ensuring that our solutions are continuously delivering value to our clients. So we spend a lot of time in investing and asking those questions around, why did we develop this solution? Have we implemented this? Have we taken action on this? What benefits have we been able to deliver? We also spend time with our clients to understand, are they getting the benefit for this? We are not just very happy with sitting with saying that, okay, we developed the analytics solution and we got paid for it. That's great. We want to push further because we want to be long term trusted analytics partners. And what that means is we need to be showing that we are delivering value, or we need to be seeing that we are delivering value. There have been cases in which our teams have gone back to clients and saying that you are spending all this with us and I don't think you're getting value because you're not acting on this. And so we want to push that. So I think the first thing is to start from the culture has to be driven from the top. The second thing is we need to start having simple mechanisms to measure it. So we have actually finally said that at the end of the day, the dollar saved or the dollar earned is the metric that we want to look at for the dollar that is invested. Making it simple, making a simple measurement and then putting everything down to that measurement makes it important for the team. It's forced to actually go and ask those questions and get those metrics, right? In some cases the teams would say that, you know what, this is a bit of a black box, we are not able to get that metric, etc. And then we say that, you know what, then we should ask for it. Then we should ask,
Hmm.
why are we not getting it? And we should push our clients also in some cases to ask for that. So now, once we've driven it from the leadership, once we've defined those metrics, continuously reinforcing that that is important and why it is important. The last part of it is celebrating those successes. Wherever we are able to deliver that value, or wherever we are able to do it, celebrate those successes. Show that this matters to us, and the other teams will say that, you know what, this is what matters to the leadership, and they are able to do it. So it's a continuous process by which we have to do it. It's not just I can say today that, you know what, this is what we are going to measure and this is what's important. We need to do it over time, and it is time invested. Culture
Hmm.
change takes time, but once you ingrain it in culture, the beauty is it works like clockwork after that, right? And
Hmm.
that's what we have noticed. And I think I would say kudos to our CEO to have actually made sure that the delivery excellence becomes important. It's not just it's not that we just have flashes of brilliance, but we have continuous sustained brilliance in our delivery and standardized delivery, right? And that's important. And for that, you need to measure, you need to have a culture that you need to be able to inculcate in the organization to be able to do that.
Yeah, yeah. And one other thing I heard there that underpins a lot of what you said and a lot of those initiatives is the customer focus, focused on the customer experience and the results that the customer is getting out of what they spend with you. And it's not just dollars spent, right? Because there's time invested in on the customer side as well.
Yep, absolutely. And I think we take the customer centricity very, I think it's paramount for us. We actually do a half yearly survey of our customers. In fact, we are just in the process of doing it for the first half of the year. And we have continuously taken the feedback from customers across our engagements. And we look at the top 20% of engagements and learn what are we doing right. And we take those learnings and cross pollinate that to our other customers and say that these are certain learnings that we have from our top engagements. We want to share this with you, and customers are ready to listen to this once they see that this is coming from data. And I think that's the best thing, right? Once you're able to bring data to a conversation, you're adding, I would say, substance rather than just emotions. And I think customers really appreciate that. And I think that's what we're trying to do even with our internal systems is we are metricizing all our processes, we are metricizing our appraisal processes, metricizing our delivery, so that once it is measured, it is improved. And that's what we're trying to drive as a culture as well. And I think that's been very effective for us because we've continuously seen that our recommendation score, our NPS scores have been actually improving because we act on the feedback as well. It's not that everything is always hunky dory. There is always feedback that clients are giving, and we actively say, you know what, we heard this from you, we are going to make these investments, and these are the steps that we're going to take, and we're going to measure this after 6 months. We're going to come back to you and ask, did we deliver that change? And we continuously have to improve on that.
So very, very customer focused. And I like that you're basically using data to drive your own improvements.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm. All right. Uh, One of the things that I found fascinating in the research I did was you work a lot with a lot of Fortune 500 companies. You also work with startups and not for profit organizations. And you gave us some examples right at the beginning of our conversation about some humanitarian efforts that you're working with. So there's sort of very diverse range of clients, if you like, that you're working on data analytics with. And I imagine that the nature of the projects with those diverse clients are equally diverse. Can you talk to us a little bit about how do you kind of manage that incredible diversity of customers and nature of the work and the type of data that you work with?
Right. I think there is one way to do this is to be flexible to your customers needs, right? At the end of the day, when we speak, and I think that has been one of the hallmark of LatentView since the time we were um, set up, is that we are very adaptable, and our operating model is very customized to the client's needs. And when I talk about the client's needs, it is whether they're a large client, whether they're a small client, whether they need execution horsepower, or whether they need think what I call strategic horsepower, or whether they need technology horsepower, whether they are in the start of their analytics journey or whether they're a mature organization. A lot of them, depending on which part of the grid that they fit, they need different things. In some cases they need a certain set of things which are very different from what a startup would have. For example, a startup would say that we would need you to even guide us into what we need to be doing, whereas a Fortune 500 company which is extremely well versed in analytics may say that, you know what, we want to put analytics on steroids, we need to just scale our analytics organization. It's a very different kind of problem. What we do is spend the time with the client to understand what their needs are and customize their solutions to them. And we dedicate our teams, so we have different kind of service lines which dedicate themselves to different types of clients and different types of their problems. And we spend a lot of time with clients to make sure that we are learning what they need, and we are catering to those needs. We have a governance layer for a lot of our clients which we call a steering committee, which meets on a quarterly basis with the clients to make sure that we are catering to the needs that they have. Otherwise, we make those fine-tuned changes on our delivery organization into our functional organization. In some cases, clients want us to bring more functional expertise, so we try to get that. Sometimes they want us to get more technical expertise. Sometimes the problem is on the data side, sometimes the problem is on the analytics side, etc. So it's all about listening to the client, making sure that we customize our consulting offering to that specific need. And I think we have done a reasonably good job. Our customer retention rates are fairly high. In fact, some of the clients that we've been working with are working with us for over a decade, especially the Fortune 500 clients. On the humanitarian side and on the I would say the non-profit side, like International Myeloma Foundation just called us the partner of the year. And one of the reasons I think that we've been working on that is, as a company which is very profitable, we have been profitable since year one of inception. We are a public company right now. I think there's also a responsibility of being able to use data for the greater good, and that can be done even profitably. You don't necessarily need to. We didn't want to look at it as a revenue generating mechanism, and we still don't look at it. But there are a lot of people who are willing to invest money for good social causes. I think Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation kind of shows that that's one of the reasons that they say that we should use money for the greater good. So a lot of these nonprofits that are working have a lot of grants, but the only reason that they are not able to get some of those grants is unless they're able to show what they're going to use it. So once we were able to showcase some of the value of analytics, there is a lot of grants that are available. In fact, we are just scratching the surface. In fact, I was speaking to them over the gala that they had, where they called us the partner of the year. They're saying that we can go leaps and bounds in terms of what they can do in analytics, into prediction, into a lot of things that can help the patients' lives. And people are ready to provide grants to invest into making sure that patients' lives are better as well. And this is just myeloma. There are a whole host of healthcare and life sciences kind of initiatives where analytics can be used for the greater good in a profitable manner.
Hmm. Yeah, that's fascinating. So, are you able to share with us an example of some of the work you do with the International Myeloma Foundation, and also what impact that then has on the patients?
Yeah. See, I think one of the things, and I'll keep it at a high level, is the the patients when they get diagnosed with myeloma. The one of the biggest things is that there's a lot of information that they have access to, but there's a lot of information that is scattered that they don't have access to as well, right? And a lot of the treatments are very specific to the patient and his condition. I mean, it could be in what is uh, the biological ancestry from where he's coming from, what condition is, which stage he was diagnosed in, what is the context with which, how much, what is his economic status in terms of this, etc. So there are a lot of things that this one, and the treatment is determined based on a lot of these factors. So it's not a very simple thing that you can say that, you know what, there are three tablets, you got a fever, take a Tylenol, right? It's fairly complex now. And when patients get diagnosed and there's patients families get to know about this, there's a lot of uncertainty. And I think that time to hope is what we call as a big metric, which is how do we get the patients the necessary information, the necessary resources at their fingertips at the time when they need it, to reduce the time to hope, so that they can get it. And that's what we have been looking at, to aggregate all of this data, and make it available. And we call it the patient dashboard. Make it available to the patients so that they are able to access this information in a timely fashion, and it's comprehensive, but it is not overwhelming as well. So that's the fine balance that you need to be able to do, so that you don't give a ton of information. And how do you represent it in such a way that the patient learns from it as well, and then they're able to go to the right, this one, they're able to take the right direction in terms of this. Like, a lot of this is not have it is not about being prescriptive, but it is about showing the path to the patient. And I think that's the work that we are doing in terms of being able to aggregate the information. We are also partnering with AWS because this is a lot of data, and AWS has also been a joint partners with us in this initiative. And but this is at the first time is to reduce the time to hope, but then there are other things that could be done as well, and those are things that we are still under discussion. So once we get to that, hopefully I'll be able to share it in the next edition.
Hmm. So, just for clarification, when you say AWS, that's Amazon Web Services, is it?
That is
Yeah.
correct. It's
Yep.
Amazon Web Services.
Hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. And you also talked at the beginning about, was it homelessness or underprivileged youth? Some work you're doing
Yeah.
there. Can you share something about that
Yeah, and
with us?
that's actually on promotion of sports under underprivileged kids, but that's more on the corporate social responsibility. We haven't used much of data analytics there, but uh, there have been cases we have had conversations with. um, for one of the eye foundations we have had conversation with in predicting blindness, right? And I think a lot of cases there is early detection possible to this one, which is basically family history, to sugar levels, to etc., to predict that if certain measures are not taken, the person can go blind, right? And I think once a person goes blind, it's very hard to, I mean, there's no recovery from there. And so data can be used. There's a lot of data on patient history which can be used in a this one. So we are having a lot of conversations with a lot of this. Our CSR activity is focused around identifying good talent. We are not doing as much data analytics, but there is possibility that we could do immensely on that into helping underprivileged kids and being able to give them platforms where they could excel, not only just in the field of academics, but also in the field of sports.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of times there's opportunities there for the underprivileged that they just don't take advantage of because they're not aware that they're available, right?
Yeah,
Or they're not
absolutely.
aware how they can access them.
Yeah, that's true.
Hmm. All right. Now, you did touch on machine learning a little bit earlier in the conversation. So, talk to us a little bit about how this whole AI revolution, that it's like it's being called, the large language models, the machine learning systems, how they're changing data analytics and how they're um, influencing your work.
No, I think it's been fairly revolutionary, right, in terms of what we have seen with a lot of the large language models, and with artificial intelligence becoming much and more mainstream. There is also a bit of hype surrounding this, and that hype is actually real, because in a lot of cases people are pushing themselves to see what they can do with AI, right? Our approach has been slightly different, which is we have gone with a problem first approach, which is what are the problems we are looking to solve, and then identifying what solutions will solve the problem. And we are finding that there are a lot of use cases that were there in the past, around search and retrieval, around better recommendation, etc., where those kind of use cases, which earlier I think would take a long time, are actually now getting enabled because of AI, right?
Mm,
We are finding that as a big this one. So there was many use cases or problems that we have faced in the past where AI provides a great set of solutions, or a great solution for that problem. The second part that we are noticing is we have at least about, I would say, a couple of dozen products in our portfolio. Even though we are a services provider, we do have what we call accelerators, a product that we have in our portfolio that we deploy in our solutions as well. Now, a lot of them we have been able to add a Gen AI layer to them, right? Be it a conversational interface in some cases, be it from a search and retrieval perspective, etc. We have been able to improve our solutions by adding the Gen AI part. So, for example, we have a connected view solution, which is to help improve supply chain efficiencies. Now, in addition to this, what we have used Gen AI is to provide narrative insights as part of our solution. So, not only we are providing insights, but we are also giving narrative insights and recommendations on what should be done, and that we are using Gen AI, which was not
mhm,
done in the past. So, we had the solution, but we are now adding the layer of Gen AI. The third part, which we are very excited about, is improving the efficiency of the analyst on the floor, right? This is being either code generation or any of those sort. We have actually been able to use Gen AI in a very powerful way to be able to do that. We are still in early days, but we are seeing some tremendous results in terms of code generation, that we are actually now piloting in some of our client scenarios, where we are saying that the analyst's time to develop could be reduced by 30 to 40%. And
mm,
that's a huge productivity gain, which is kind of translates into direct benefits to the client. So there are multiples. So there are direct, I would say, AI applications, there are applications which have an AI layer, and thirdly there is the whole efficiency model that I think is there. And we are seeing use cases and client scenarios where we are actually implementing it. So we are not just doing AI for AI sake, but we are finding
Yeah.
out what problems are there which can be solved using AI. And that is the that I think has been giving us good traction in the market.
Yeah, I love the idea of the problem focus. And as you were explaining that, I thought that that's kind of how I approach things. I sort of more or less, okay, what can I do with this? And then, oh, there's a problem that I could solve, and then try it out. And if it then solves the problem and I get the response, like you say, often productivity gains of 30 or 50%. Some of the things that I've done sort of been even more than 50%. It's quite striking.
Yeah.
But to be focused on that rather than saying, this is a great shiny new toy, I'll just play with it. Although I do a little bit of play because you've got to start somewhere and learn a bit, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. There is nothing wrong with um, creating some room to play and experiment, etc. I think that's that it is fair, but I think we should be conscious to not just be caught by the. I think the shiny object example is very good. We should just not be enamored by the shiny object, and just try to use it or force fit it in places where it is not applicable.
Mm.
And I found out a lot of places where we try to over engineer the problem. We come up with suboptimal solutions or very expensive solutions that really didn't need that. And I think that's again, you need to learn, and you need to sometimes you'll make those mistakes. But I think the thing is that if you have a technology first approach, which is saying I'll take the technology and then find out things which it can
Mm.
solve, it may lead to some of those scenarios.
Yeah. I had one recently where I thought, hang on, this is ridiculous. I'd written a custom GPT to do a series of calculations for me, and then I realised, hang on, I've got all the data I need for this in a spreadsheet. I'll just add, like it was 5 calculations that it did. I'll just add 5 columns in the spreadsheet and put the formulas in there, and then it's automatic.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's an example of using the technology to do something that it's over engineered for.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. One thing I'm interested in, because you've had an interesting journey and going through data analytics and seen a lot of changes in that time. So if you could go back and give one piece of advice to your younger self just starting out in the field, what would you say?
Oh yeah, that's a very interesting question, and I think what I would say is that um, when I started my career, I used to come with the approach that the client is always right or the customer is always right. And I think one advice that I would give to myself is to accept that the client has a problem, but not to just take everything at face value, but to um, question them in some way to provoke an understanding in terms of what we are really trying to solve. A lot of times, I think in the past I used to go with the approach of the client says that I want to develop this. We used to go and say, okay, let's develop this, right?
Hmm.
But have you taken a step back and try to understand why are they trying to develop this?
Hmm.
What is it that they're really trying to solve? And I think if we come with that approach and trying to find out what you're trying to solve and then try to develop the solution, you have much better solution. You have a much better solution which will be adopted. And I think it took me some time to get to that, to be able to say question the premise, question the customer, and at least educate them, at least tell them that I don't think this is the right way to go about it, but I'm happy to do this if this is what you believe. But at least put your viewpoints there, not just say that, okay, you know what, just assume that things are right. So I would say that that questioning mindset is something that I would have told my much younger self
Hmm.
20 years back, that I wish I could do that. But I think some of it comes with experience. And
Yeah.
maybe if I was too young and if I just questioned, maybe
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
wouldn't have listened to me as well. So I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah, and also confidence, the confidence to do that, right? But I think it comes
absolutely.
back to that client focus. I mean, it's one thing to say the customer is always right, but then to say if the customer says, "Here's my problem, and this is the solution. I want you to implement that solution." Uh, Now, there's two aspects to that, isn't there? There's, first of all, is that really the problem? Or if that is the problem, is that the symptom of a deeper
Bigger
underlying issue
problem.
or
Yeah.
problem,
Yeah.
or is that actually the core problem? So that's one line of questioning, and then of course when you do get to, okay, this is the core problem, we're agreed on that. Is that the best solution, or are there other solutions? Now you may have some knowledge that the customer doesn't have. That's why they're talking to you. So you say,
Yeah.
well, I happen to think that there are other ways to solve this problem, and you may also have in your organization or in your network people that are experts in certain areas that you can call on and bring additional information. So yeah, the idea of really digging in and really understanding what's the core problem, and then okay, let's find the best solution for that.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head on that, in terms of the fact that I think in a lot of cases that we don't do that enough. We don't try to push to understand what the core problem we are trying to solve is. We just try to take the problem at the face value, and I think sometimes just pushing the even the person to think a bit more
Hmm.
can unearth certain interesting things as well, right? So the person is also, as they're talking about it, and the more questions that we put, we do this. In fact, I mean, as I said, I'm actually originally based in Seattle, and I've come to New York, and I have a day long workshop where we are spending some time with clients talking about different analytics scenarios, things that we have implemented with other places, and things around it. The first thing that I had my team do is we will have a set of questions around what we are trying to solve for them. We just want to, so I want to have a good sense of what they are looking for, rather than just coming and saying, okay, we're going to show you all the shiny objects that we have
Hmm.
developed, right? And I think it goes back to saying that let's try to really understand what they are looking to do. We will build better solutions if we do it that way. And I've truly found that in cases where we have truly done that, we have really understood the client's problem, we've had much better success in delivering solutions that are adopted better by clients.
Hmm. Yes, that's a really good point, and certainly not just in the work you do with clients, but like you say, when you're delivering training workshops, really getting an understanding of who the audience is in that workshop, who the audience is in any presentation, and what what is their core problem, what are their core needs, and how do we,
Yeah.
yeah, how do we bring something to the table that delivers that? I think that can improve any presentation or any workshop, because often I've been at presentations or workshops where I've thought, oh God, it's just like uh, the metaphor I think of is watering the garden with a fire hose. It's just, or actually trying to
Yeah.
drink from the fire hose. Most of
Yeah.
the water just splashes all over.
Yeah, I've heard the other phrase, which is show up and throw up. You have a ton of information that you just
Yeah.
show up, and yeah, that's one that sticks with me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, love it. All right. Well, it's been a fascinating conversation, Krishnan. Really appreciate it. I think it's a good point to move on to the buzz, our innovation round, which is the same five questions that I ask of every guest. And the idea is you'll give us some really short, sharp, insightful answers that'll inspire the listener to take some action today and
Sounds good.
either get a result or learn some more insights.
Sure
You
thing.
ready? All right.
Absolutely.
What's the number one thing anyone needs to do to be more innovative?
Um, Start collecting data,
Yeah. And organize it, right? Organize it and look for patterns.
organize
And
it, and
mm,
yeah, but start collecting it first. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. All right. What's the best thing you've done to develop new ideas?
um, Take some time off the computer and think about it. I think that always helps clear the mind. Take a walk, think about the problem, ruminate around it. It always helps. There's a reason that we allow pickles to this one, and we allow things to ferment, and they come out better. I think even our mind requires things to be distilled for some time. I think taking the time off helps really think through the problem a lot.
Hmm. Great. Yeah, love that. And I love the pickles metaphor. I have to remember that one. Yeah. All right. Now, what's a favorite resource of yours you use most often?
I would say Excel. I think that's
Excellent.
the
Hmm.
best analytics tool that's there in the market, and I think every now and then that just comes to my help for any simple thing that I need to do. I think I have Excel on the fingertips at almost everything, be it for personal or for professional life.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I used to be quite a power user of Excel, but I've actually forgotten most of the power features in it. I still use Excel, simple Excel spreadsheets to tabulate data and so on. But what I've found recently, we were talking about the language models before. If I want to how to construct a pivot table, which I've forgotten how to do, I can ask
Yep.
ChatGPT, for example, and I what I found is if I put in a link to my spreadsheet and say construct a pivot table for this to and explain what I want to analyze, it'll actually walk me through the process. And I think, oh, this is
Yeah.
brilliant.
And Copilot will help you do that from now on. All the products
Hmm.
that Microsoft has is going to be integrated with Copilot. So it's almost like the clip art if you recollect on the old
Yeah,
Word days.
yeah, yeah.
I'm sure
Clippy.
the generations today wouldn't see that, the
Yeah,
Clippy,
yeah,
yeah. And it's it that was the earliest form of Chat GPT, so to say. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Excellent. All right. What's the best way to keep a client on track?
Constantly poll them, understand how they're feeling about us, and make sure that you're listening to them. You're truly listening to what they're telling you. I think that that has been always the best way to keep clients engaged.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a really important point. Actually, getting their feedback, polling them all the time, but then listening and implementing things that
Absolutely.
make sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
excellent. All right, final question of the buzz round. What's the number one thing anyone can do to differentiate themselves?
I think at the end of the day, the important thing to differentiate yourself from the rest is to be able to show the value that you're able to drive in what you do. And I think if you're able to show value in what you're doing and demonstrate places where you've been able to deliver value, that differentiates yourself from other person. Because anybody who drives and generates value has got a differentiator in itself. So I think that's helped us in when people tell us what are our differentiators. I would tell us that talk to the tons of clients that we work with, and they will tell you that what we delivered and where we delivered value and why that is different from the other kind of teams that we work with or other kind of partners that they work with.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I love it. Delivering value, focused on that delivering value, and the the use of client testimonials as part of that is really valuable as
Yeah,
well. Mm.
absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks, Krishnan. This has been a fabulous conversation. Now, where can people find out more about you, about LatentView Analytics, and the work you do, and also maybe even get in touch to say thanks for what you've shared?
Sure. Follow us on LinkedIn, LatentView Analytics. I mean, linkedin.com/LatentView is where you can, and LatentView.com website is also there, which is a great resource of information. You can follow me on LinkedIn. Krishnan Venkata is my LinkedIn URL. So linkedin.com/Krishnan Venkata should get you to me. I connect with anybody who sends me a connection request. So please send me a connection request. And you can follow our page on LinkedIn. We also have a High on Data podcast that we host, where we are hosting podcasts as well, and we have a High on Data, I would say, community page as well, where we should put a lot of interesting work that we're doing, interesting insights that we have done. But yeah, these are multiple resources which you could reach me. If not anything else, you can just drop an email to me if you have any questions at krishnan.venkata@latentview.com as well. I do respond to emails within 24 hours.
Excellent. And of course, we'll have links to all of those in the show notes. And if you do reach out to Krishnan via email or via LinkedIn request, please mention you heard him on the Innova.buzz podcast so he can put it into context.
Absolutely. That'll be great.
All right. Now, finally, Krishnan, what action would you like our listener to take out of our conversation today?
I think I would like them to think about what are the things that they could take from this and implement in their current context. I think hopefully what I've been able to share is my experience, and some learnings from my experience and some learnings from the mistakes in my experience as well. Hopefully, you don't have to repeat them. I would just tell you to reflect on some of the things that I had talked about. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them as well, in your specific client context, because every client context or every client scenario or every context and problem that you have is different. So that's what I would say. Reflect, look for your applicability in your current context, and see whether those can be implemented. And share with me if you're able to find something that impacted you in a positive way. That would be a good note for me, and that is a learning, and that is a human learning rather than a machine learning. I would learn from that process and saying that this feedback actually helped somebody.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Krishnan. Um, and thanks so much for sharing your time and your wisdom with us so generously today. I've really enjoyed the conversation and I wish you all the best for the future. And please do stay in touch.
Thank you, Jorgen. It's a pleasure that I could come on this, and thank you for having me on this podcast. Appreciate it.